So, welcome to We Are Napier, the podcast that shares alumni stories, puts resilient skills in context, and helps to prepare you for a changing world. My name's Dave Jarrold. I'll be your host, and joined today by Pete McLean. Pete, hi, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Great to be here.
No, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us. So, a huge amount to ask you about today because you're a Napier Alumni Award winner, member of staff, Napier Alumni as well, business owner, and successful entrepreneur. So, loads and loads of stuff to dig into. So, can I start by getting you to tell us a little bit about your background in business and your time as a student at Napier first, before we come on to the other bits?
No problem. It seems like such a long time ago now. Yes, I am alumni from Edinburgh Napier University. I think I joined about 2008-9, that kind of time of the year. I went to college first and went straight into third year, and did fourth year at Edinburgh Napier University in hospitality management, and picked up a lot of the entrepreneurial modules along the way. But still tease the entrepreneurial team that I think I was rejected for hospitality and entrepreneurship degree, and ended up just doing hospitality, but I think I picked up most of the entrepreneurial modules. So that, seems like a long time ago.
Excellent. And then you put that entrepreneurship into practice.
Yeah, so very much enjoyed Napier, and back then they had something called the Moffat Centre, which is the hub for enterprise, which is now known as BRT. I went along there with an idea to set up a healthy fast food chain of restaurants, and did the business plan with them, and realized I was going to have to raise about £1 million to make it happen, which was completely unachievable at the time. But we worked the idea back, and just before I graduated, started selling Scottish food and Scottish food hampers in time for Christmas, and did okay with that, and grew a business in fourth year, and it lasted for 13-14 years.
Wow. So where's the business now? What was the exit strategy for you?
So it's made multiple mistakes over my 14 years, as you can probably imagine, and it was a interesting ride. So sold Scottish hampers when I was a student, and we made £10,000 in 1 week, which was quite exciting, but actually was probably a bit of a mistake in the fact that I got a bit comfortable with money in the bank and thought, this entrepreneurship game is easy. I don't know what everyone's grumbling about, but soon realized in January, February that not many people want Christmas hampers, so panicked a bit, and I'd graduated by then, so ended up buying a cafe in town, a chain called the Bean Scene. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but they closed, and there was a cafe in Holyrood, which I took on, and grew a business from there. Grew the cafe for the first year, and ever the opportunist, and saying yes to everything, which again I've learned is not the right thing to do. That grew. We started off at about £300 a day in turnover, and managed to get up to about £1,600 a day in the local area. So grew that business quite successful. Had a great team down there, but people would come in and say, "We love your baking. Can we have that in our cafe or restaurant or outside catering?" And I'd say yes. So we'd go into the cafe at 4 a.m. and do all the baking and fulfill those orders. And then people would say, we need some of your catering in our office, and it grew from there. So I ended up putting cafes in offices, so like Skyscanner and Amazon, putting cafes in the physical spaces around Edinburgh, set up a wholesale catering company on the back of that, and also a wholesale bakery. So I built a couple of commercial kitchens. One was 4,000 square foot, employed up to 40, I think it was 49 people that I employed over the years. Grew a very big, to me, a very big company, which was always the dream, but wasn't making very much money, and often making a loss. So the turnover was over $1 million, but we were making losses. So surrounded by good advisors over the time, we managed to survive, but shrunk the business back down. And when it finished, it was just 3 people doing wholesale baking with a really tight product list, making a lot more profit than I ever made with a £1 million business, and then exited out of that after 13 years. Just burnt out, really, wanted a change. It's all I really knew. I wouldn't say I sold the business. I sold elements of the business. I'm certainly not sitting here retired talking to you from the beach, sadly. Ended up becoming a sheep farmer for three or 4 months, which was the best thing I could do, to just do something completely different, be out in the fresh air. Yeah. And I had always been back into Napier over those 13 years to chat to students, live projects, have people on placement. So always had a very strong link with Napier all the way through that, through the business career. And actually a lot of my mentors came from the business school and became friends ultimately, and then asked me to cover some maternity leave in Bright Red Triangle as enterprise manager, and I'm still there 5 years later.
Excellent. Well, I'll come on to that in a moment, but yeah, it sounds like you've absolutely put the experience from Napier in terms of both the hospitality industry and the entrepreneurial approach into a huge amount of use and a vast amount of experience that you've gained from that.
Yeah, I think so. The thing I loved about Napier, and it's definitely not too much of a marketing push for Napier, but it's very practical and real life skills. So everything that I learned at Napier, I put to use. So when I was learning on going on different modules, I felt that actually I can see myself applying this in real life. It wasn't a degree or modules that I thought, actually, this is not relevant. I'm bored. This doesn't interest me. Every single thing I did, whether it was starting a business, whether it was service management, whether it was organizational management, every element of every module, I thought, actually, I can see how this relates to the real world and how it could help me be better in the real world. And I think that's, to this day, why Napier is above some other universities. It's very practical skills that you can apply straight away when you graduate.
100%. And I've had very similar conversations with alumni from all of our schools, including the likes of Saki, where you tend to think creative industries probably isn't quite as industry relevant or industry linked. But because we've got so many members of staff who've got direct experience in the industry and can prepare students for what the reality is going to be like. So if you're going into acting, this is what's your acting job going to be and what's your resting job going to be. And this is how the kind of roller coaster of that goes, in the same way that, as you've perfectly described, the experience of entrepreneurship is that roller coaster and the ups and downs and the lessons that come along the way. Absolutely. And I think Napier's very fortunate. You mentioned the Moffat Centre. That brought back memories, because I remember that as well. But yeah, we've gone full circle, and Napier's captured all your experience now in your work with BRT.
Yep. Now enterprise manager at Bright Red Triangle, which is obviously the hub for enterprise. So anyone, student, staff and alumni that has a business idea or is running a business, and that can be a freelancer, just you in the business, right the way up to raising millions of pounds or trying to spin out of the university. We're trying to cover it all, really. And a lot of the things that we cover are same whether you are one person or have multiple people. So we have lots of great facilities, lots of great training. We have some money occasionally to give away to startups to support them on their journey. We have a co-working space down at Bainfield near Fountain Bridge, which is a great space, because actually when I was setting up my business, but it can be very lonely and tough, especially if you're having a tough day. I always found that was around collecting money or people not paying you. It can get pretty rough. But having a community around you to share those problems and realize that you're not the only one that has had that problem really helps. So I think we pay a lot of attention in supporting entrepreneurs and business people with regards to mental health and looking after them as individuals. And I think Napier as a whole, has a big push to support people and make sure everyone's okay ultimately. And that really is hopefully one of the things we're good at, or I'm good at. As an enterprise manager, it's not just about come to me and speak to me about finance and marketing and tax. It's actually quite often a shoulder to cry on, or just that little bit of encouragement to say you're doing well, or to knock some ideas around. Because if you're just a business at home all the time, a freelancer style business in your bedroom or your office, it can get pretty tough.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're right. You reference Napier's connections to business and to industry and to the world of work and that realism that's there. And I think it's exactly the same. It's replicated with Bright Red Triangle, and the fact that you've got a number of staff in Bright Red Triangle, not least yourself, who've been there and been through it and know what the challenges and the pressures are like when you are trying to get something off the ground, and all of the kind of challenges that go along with it.
Yeah, I think everyone that's employed in Bright Red Triangle has run their own business, or is running their own business. And I don't think you can be a good business advisor or help businesses if you haven't experienced it yourself. And that's probably more to do with the failures or the struggles than the successes. To tell someone that actually I've been here, I've had that letter through the post demanding money, or I've had people not paying me and wages are due on Friday. And I think having that empathy hopefully adds a certain quality. And there are business advisors out there that haven't run their own business, but I just think it maybe adds the fact that we're now a team of 7 or 6, so mix of part-time, the fact that everyone understands what it's like in one department and have had that real life experience hopefully adds value to the students or staff or alumni that come to see us.
Yeah, no, I think so. I would completely agree. Now, you mentioned the support at Napier and the kind of wellbeing support and the resilience support, and obviously that's part of what the work that I do and the work that we're trying to promote with these podcasts and resilient skills program. So from your experience of both working with entrepreneurs and with students at BRT and your own experience of going through that process, what's been the most important resilient skills that you've got from that? And I know it's a long list. I'll ask for your top few.
Yeah, I mean, that is such a good question. And it's a great question because just even discussing that is important, because what I've found in the past is people are too nervous to show weakness. And I think just by getting people to highlight, what makes you resilient, will get people to talk about their failures. And I think that's the number one. I mean, it's not a particularly difficult question for me. I think getting comfortable with failing is the number one skill you can have, whether that's going for a job interview or going for a new course or setting up a business. As soon as you're comfortable with failure, you will be just fine in life. And you will find you will probably fail less, but you will learn from failing. What I found, especially some younger students, maybe when you're at school, you're marked whether you're passing a correct answer or you're failing. So the dream is to always succeed and never fail. But that doesn't make you particularly resilient. And I think what I've either found is people don't push themselves because they're worried they'll fail. Or they think failure is the end of the world and that's it. But actually, every failure I've had, and I've had some pretty dramatic ones, I've been to court with employees for various reasons, and luckily always come out on top. But failing at certain elements of business and getting products wrong that you thought would be amazing and fail, and you've put thousands of pounds. I got a print run of 10,000 labels done, not realizing that I couldn't have honey in a vegan product and had to bin them straight away, and I distributed halfway around the country. So there's been many failures, but actually at the time it's painful, don't get me wrong. But actually what you've learnt and can then move forward will always be refining you as an individual or your business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I've been through exactly the same process with my business outside the Napier, and still do. Excuse me. And I think, there's the phrase of, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback, which is really trite and it's easy to say. And we can fail. Things can not work. You can fail financially. You can fail with your marks and all the rest of it. Students in particular in evaluative situations. But it's what you take from the experience, exactly what you've just said, what you take from it, and then what you do next. Because we're never finished. And so it's about, okay, so what's the next step then? Dust yourself down. Where do you go from here?
Exactly. Yep, couldn't agree more. And hopefully people that are listening to this will get a bit of comfort in maybe pushing themselves a bit harder, or just the coping mechanisms when failure occurs. It can quite often stepping back from it a little bit, taking time off. Again, it's something I work with entrepreneurs a lot on. There's this sort of pressure, I suppose, that an entrepreneur needs to be on 24/7 all week, every week, pushing hard. And then there's the guilt of, I've got my own business, but I'm actually going to take Saturday off. And actually, I have more respect for business owners that say, oh, I don't work a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, because, that's not what I want to do. And to get that into your business and have the confidence to say, I don't need to do work on a Friday, I actually take Friday off to spend time with my family or kids or a hobby is much more impressive I'm much more impressed than someone comes to me and says, I've worked 50 hours, 60 hours, 70 hours. I'm much more impressed. I think I heard the term slow entrepreneurship the other day, which has been interesting reading about, a slower pace of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I like that. It's not about the grind as such. It's about,
exactly.
Not grinding yourself as you go through it.
Exactly. The word side hustle and people like Gary Vee and all those types of people that have encouraged, just keep working and it'll happen is I probably just don't believe in that anymore.
Mm-hmm. So for any current students, if you're interested in the Resilient Skills program that we've got, if you go into Moodle and just search for Resilient Skills, you will find that. And we've got a whole host of video training there that can support you in a variety of aspects of resilience and well-being and time management and all of those kind of skills. So having talked about failures and things that haven't worked, let's move on to some big successes. So one of the reasons I'm speaking to a number of people in this run of the podcast series is that you're all Alumni Award winners. So tell us about the Alumni Award. And I know you've got other stuff going on just now that's really quite exciting. So I want to tap into that and hear about those experiences.
Yeah, well, it's always nice to get some recognition for hard work. And yeah, I can't remember what year, but certainly 10 years ago, I think now, I won the award, which was great. And it's nice because you're nominated by your peers or a lecturer at university that's obviously stayed in touch with you. And I think the important thing is it's not just an award for what you've achieved, but it's important what you've given back to Are Napier University. And I'm always very passionate about, I really enjoy coming into the classroom or have people coming on placement. I really enjoyed that part of it, but it was fantastic to get recognized. And I sometimes have a go at some startups for chasing awards and not concentrating on their business. So it was nice to just be nominated and not apply for an award. And that was obviously a big highlight for me. And there has been many successes along the way. I mean, just employing 49 people, I think, is a success. Creating jobs. I always got a huge buzz of just watching people enjoying your product or service that you're offering. And that was the biggest buzz, that people actually wanted to buy something that I'd come up with. It was as simple as that. It wasn't, I saw that as a success. And that's what we work with businesses now. Does your business idea have a customer and do they want it? And business is really simple. As long as you're solving a pain point for someone that's willing to pay money to have it solved, you're away. So it took me about 6 years to work that out. But, I think
it takes a lot of people a lot longer. So 6 years is good.
Well, I think that's the thing. I think it's all about patience. And I would also encourage people just to be patient. I feel there's a certain rush at the moment. Like you have to do stuff very quickly. And if in 2 years, if you're not chief executive or marketing director or, in that position in the workplace, you see that as failure. But you just need to be patient, and it takes a lot of experience and hard graft to get where you want to go.
Definitely. And I think Napier is very fortunate to have you as part of the team at BRT. So if any students are thinking about, or just an idea about what you might want to do and a business idea, go down and talk to Pete and talk to the team and just explore it. Then there's nothing to lose. Yeah.
There's lots of people that we meet that you don't need an idea to come. We have plenty of people that come and say, I just want to work for myself. What can I do? And we've got many things that we can have a conversation. It's really about starting the conversation and getting involved with the community. And there's also lots of workshops that you can come along to. We have pitch competitions. You don't have to pitch, just come along and watch what's going on. We've got workshops from Freelance Academy to learn to become a freelancer, right the way through to how to do TikTok for your business, or imposter syndrome was a popular one, how to communicate your business ideas. So yeah, definitely follow us on social media. That's definitely how you find out about the events that are on.
Perfect. No, definitely. Well, that's a nice, neat segue into the last bit I was going to ask you about, because it was on social media, on LinkedIn, that I'd seen about the work that you're doing in schools. And I know you've been successful in getting some funding and some support for that, if I'm right. So just interesting to hear a little about that as a kind of last thing, really, and what the work is that you're doing in schools.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been involved with a project and a company called Daydream Believers, and we put creative thinking into schools with challenge-based learning. So I understand that's quite a lot of words, but what we do is, as we get older, we start worrying about failing, and our creativity starts to get, capped. So we have created the first creative thinking qualification for schools in Scotland. Hopefully, nearly 1,000 pupils will do that this year. We're in every council in Scotland, and it's accredited by Napier University, so they're very much part of it as well, which we're very grateful for. And it's about bringing real life challenges to kids and not capping their creativity. So that was hugely successful. We've linked up with people like Nike and Lego, and we go into a classroom and have what we call playlists, and teachers have all the resources there to run it, and kids can design a trainer, and we look at the circular economy. And kids that are slightly disillusioned by school, not great at maths, English, some of the bigger subjects, actually they then find confidence in this type of learning and realize that it's not all about maths and English, because I believe entrepreneurial skills and creativity skills are as important as maths and English. And we recently won £146,000 to create an entrepreneurial qualification in schools as well. Again, using the challenge-based learning model to go in with creative challenges for kids to tackle. And I think when kids are given real-life problems and can relate to them, you see the best in them. So we're very excited that the Scottish Government have invested in entrepreneurial mindset at school level, and the fact that we can see kids excited about entrepreneurship and growth mindset and all these buzzwords. It's just exciting to see kids learning those skills, tangible skills, and I suppose you could sort of soft skills, communication, negotiation, team building, and just understanding real life problems is hopefully hugely beneficial for the individuals. And we don't expect them all to be setting up businesses and become entrepreneurs, but we very much believe that no matter what job you're in, you need entrepreneurial skills. Whether it's negotiation, you can be in an office job, but you still need to persuade people of your idea. When you go to a meeting, you still need to communicate with people. You still need to market yourself, whether that's LinkedIn, your personal your personal branding. Everything is involved in that. And if we can get kids leaving school with that knowledge and excitement around entrepreneurship, I think we'll be doing our job.
Oh, I think that's amazing. And you're so right. And it takes the fear out of it all as well, that, entrepreneurship doesn't have to be this one-dimensional, the e-myth of you're going off and taking on the world. It can be just a little thing at work, or just your mindset towards something at work in an employed situation. I think that's so important.
Well, I think the most interesting thing about, certainly when we set up the creative thinking qualification, which is higher level, which is great, and universities now recognize that, and it's hopefully, we were running a creative thinking festival in Sydney last week, so where it's very much us as a team at Daydream. It's not just Scotland, it's about using international experience where we can, to give a richer learning experience for the kids. But the interesting thing about the creative thinking qualification is we actually give you a better mark for failing more.
I love that.
Which, trying to explain that to various exam bodies, that if they fail more, they'll get a better mark, is quite an interesting conversation. But that's what we're trying to change at school, because we see them coming to university, college, further education, and they're too scared to fail. And that's what we're trying to encourage. If you fail and fix, it's called fail and fix. Hopefully that mindset will change to make sure people are pushing the boundaries, and hopefully more innovation will therefore come from it.
Amazing. So my final question, which is the last question that we ask everyone that comes on the podcast, is if you were walking across that stage today with the scroll in your hand and walking out as a fresh-faced graduate, what's the one piece of advice you would give yourself today?
That's a great question. I would say, don't undervalue the skills that you've learned at Napier. I think when people leave and go into the workplace and it's a competitive environment, the easy thing, especially in business or freelance, is to be cheap and think you don't have the skills, but actually value the skills you've learned. And even if you're going for job roles, look at job roles in the way that, you know, you have done well, you've learned great skills at Napier, you've got a great network, and use that to your advantage and be confident. I think a lot of people lack confidence, but I think if you're leaving with a degree from Napier or you're setting up your business, you've achieved great things. So take that into the working world.
Absolutely, and I think I'd maybe just add a rider to that, which is, you've kind of alluded to it, which is the network that we have as Napier alumni, and the kind of Napier connections can stay with you, support you.
I couldn't agree more. All the way through my business, from being a student sitting in the Moffat Centre at Craig Locker, I have used my network. And again, people are too scared to ask for help. Ask for help. And even ask your network if they know someone in their network. Always have an ask, you know, even if that's trying to find a job or speaking to someone for experience or setting up a business. Always ask someone, you don't know so-and-so in this company, I'd love to speak to them. Because if you don't ask, they don't know you're looking for that problem to be solved or for that introduction. And I promise, if you ask 2 or 3 people for the thing that you're trying to get solved, you will absolutely find them. People normally love helping people. So just ask.
That's an absolutely perfect sentiment to end on. So we'll bring it to an end there. And I'll just say thanks very much, Pete. Thanks for your time. That's been absolutely brilliant talking to you today.
Pleasure. Well, hopefully I'll meet some of you that are listening to this. Come down and see us at Bright Red Triangle. It'll be great to have a chat.
See, that's the entrepreneurial mindset, getting the plug in at the very end. Thanks again. Good to talk to you.
No problem.